Hi folks, Brian Hallaq from Norpoint Training Center. I'm back again with a conversation about guns. The last go around was with my pro-gun friends, so again, turnabout's fair play. Now I'm back with my anti-gun friends. So what I'm here to talk today to talk to you about is being educated about the debate. When you're going to have a conversation with us, have a conversation with us like we're adults. So let me give you an example. Let's say you went to a race, a car race, and you watch the cars going around the track, and at some point you decide to walk up to one of the officials, and you tell the official, listen, that horseless carriage over there, that horseless carriage is cheating, and you should pull him off of the field. And the official looks at you quizzically and says, why? And you say, well, because he's painted the wrong color, because that color gives him and his horseless carriage an unfair advantage in the race, and he's cheating, you should pull him off of there. Now, any person who would be there, any rational person who watches the race would say to themselves, wait a second, so they just called a car a horseless carriage, which probably suggests they don't know what they're talking about. And then they identified something on the car that's cosmetic in nature rather than functional, and suggests that somehow that gives that particular car a competitive advantage. This person is pretty much crazy. And so what happens at that point, literally, if that's what you had done, no rational person would do that, but if that's what you had done, what will happen is you're pretty much never going to be able to get through that person again. They're going to tune you out. Now, when you talk to people in the gun culture and you use terms like clips for magazines, what happens is that's like calling a car a horseless carriage. In fact, it's worse, because I think you could make an argument that a car is a horseless carriage, but you can't make an argument that a clip is a magazine. And when you bring up things like, for example, in the assault weapons debate, that are cosmetic features of the gun, and say, well, that's what makes the gun an assault rifle, because it's, these things are military style, and that's what causes it to be more lethal than other guns, then what happens is we tune you out. The same way somebody who's a car enthusiast might tune you out if you call his car a horseless carriage. We tune you out, and everything you may say afterwards, which may or may not have merit, it wouldn't matter, because we're not going to listen to what you have to say. So here's the problem. My anti-gun friends, you are ill-educated. You just are. And if we're ever going to have the conversation in an honest way, you need to get educated. Now, luckily, you have things like the internet. If you find guns truly abhorrent, you have the internet, and you can spend some time on the internet learning what the nomenclature is, learning what the functionality is of various parts of a gun, and at least then you can come to us and talk honestly. My suggestion personally is for you to go take a gun safety class. And I know you might find guns to be abhorrent, but I can guarantee you, mostly, I take it back, I'm being a little facetious. Almost every legitimate gun safety class in this country that I can think of, the instructors are very reputable, the environment is very safe, and they don't put you in a position where you're going to get hurt. Most gun safety classes have you working with very, very small caliber guns, usually 22, in a very, very controlled, limited setting, and you're really not going to be in a position to hurt yourself. But what you are going to be in a position to do is learn a little bit about the functionality of the gun. So when they talk in the media about a semi-automatic handgun, I find it to be a little bit strange and funny when they say that, because I think they're suggesting in a sort of casual way that the semi-automatic handgun has more functionality, more lethality than, say, a different kind of a handgun. When in reality, all we're referring to when we say semi-automatic is that every time you pull the trigger one time, one round goes off. And so theoretically, while we don't call revolvers semi-automatic, they function in a semi-automatic format. And so what we want to do is we want you guys to start talking to us like we're human beings, like we know what we're talking about, like we're adults. And if you can use the right words and talk with at least some cursory authority, then at least now we have to take you seriously. But when you come forth and you use bizarre words for things that have nothing to do with anything, we tune you out. The conversation doesn't even start. And so that's the problem. And that's part of the disconnect that happens between the pro-gun and anti-gun people. So let's talk about the assault weapons, for example. People tell me, well, we should ban these assault weapons. And I say, okay, great. What makes a weapon assaultive? What makes it more lethal than another weapon? And they'll go, well, I don't know, it's military styled. Okay, great, it's military styled. So what you're saying then, it has features that we would commonly associate with a firearm that is, or a small arm that's used by militaries. Yep. Okay, well, so what are those features? Well, it looks black and evil. Well, that's just cosmetic. There's nothing about that makes the gun more lethal. If you look to the assault weapons ban and the criteria that they used to determine what was an assault weapon and what wasn't, they were nearly all cosmetic features. And so, for example, in the 1994 assault weapons ban, one of the characteristics of an assault weapon was whether it had a bayonet lug. And that's just a little end piece on the end of a rifle that allows you to affix a bayonet. Now, for my anti-gun friends, if you're not familiar with what a bayonet is, it's basically a big knife. So the ability to affix a knife on the end of a rifle caused it to fall into a category of rifles called an assault weapon. Well, let's stop for a second. When was the last time you heard of a mass bayoneting? They just don't happen. The bayonet attached to the end of a rifle is not what makes it more or less lethal. It's kind of a throwback to a bygone era that we still put on some military rifles, but the reality of it is it doesn't make it more or less lethal. It's just a cosmetic feature. And yet this is what was harped on. The pistol grip. And again, the way it was sold, especially to folks that aren't familiar with firearms, is because it's a pistol grip, even having the word pistol in it suggests some higher level of lethality. It doesn't add a pistol to the rifle, it's just a different shape of a grip. And whether you hold the rifle like this or you hold it like this doesn't change its ability to be lethal or not. And so again, harping on cosmetic features caused us in the gun community to look at you like you didn't know what you were talking about. And as soon as we felt you didn't know what you were talking about, every other argument you might make just gets drowned out like so much white noise. And so now we have to go back and stop for a second and really ask ourselves the question, how do you come and talk to me? Now, I'm trying to help you here. You don't believe in guns, you don't believe in gun rights, you want to come and talk to me like I'm a human being, then come and talk to me. But don't come at me with things that are really irrelevant. Think carefully about what your argument is. Now notice I haven't talked about magazines in the assault weapons ban context. That happens to be one feature where it does have some functionality. The ability to have a detachable box magazine and the size of the magazine does affect the functionality of the firearm. But we'll get to magazines here in a second. The main thing I want to discuss here, though, is it behooves you to get some education about the process. And it's really important because if you're going to say we should ban assault weapons, then you need to explain to me why you think a weapon is assaultive or not, whether you think it has some bearing on the lethality of the gun. If you came to me and said, look, we should get rid of these military-style weapons, and I say, all right, what's a military-style weapon? You say, well, I don't think you should be able to affix a grenade launcher on the bottom of your AR-15. Wow, okay. Now you're mentioning something that really we do commonly associate with military weapons that are used in war, and I'd have to look at that and go, okay, so now you're talking about something that's functional, something that creates an added level of lethality, and now we have to have that debate, we have to have that discussion, we have to have that talk. If you came to me and said, well, I don't believe in the ability to obtain fully automatic weapons, again, now we're talking about something that's functional, something that's related to weapons of war, something that we commonly associate that's functional and related to military-style weapons. I gotcha. I'm willing to now have that conversation. But if you tell me that you don't like the gun because of the color, or because the stock, the part that comes here against your shoulder, is adjustable, or because you hold the gun with a pistol grip versus a standard traditional grip, I'm not sure I'm with you on that. I mean, gosh, if you came to me and said, I don't like light triggers, you might have something there. Maybe now you say to me, well, I'm not sure if those specialized triggers that you can get are safe or not. Okay, now we can have a conversation. Now we're talking about something that's functional on a gun, and we can debate the merits of different parts. But when you come at me with the cosmetic features of the gun, I tune you out. It all starts to sound like white noise because I think you don't know what you're talking about. You're talking to me about horseless carriages, and I want to talk about cars. Now, the magazine. This is something that just drives us in the gun world just batty crazy. So I'm going to give you your first gun lesson. You're not going to have to pay for this. You're not going to have to go to a gun class for this. Let's just get this out of the way right now. A clip and a magazine. This is a clip. This is a clip. Happens to be a paper clip. I would have brought a hair clip, but I don't have any hair. Now, in the gun world, a clip looks like this. This is a clip, okay? And it basically clips together ammunition. Here's a full one, okay? Sorry. They're dangerous. We should ban these clips. So, here's a clip, and it clips together ammunition, all right? Very rare to see these out in the world. You'll see them in the gun shows when people are buying surplus ammunition. They're a convenient way to store ammunition. They're not really the most convenient way to load a gun, although they do help with certain types of firearms. This is a magazine, okay? This is I guess we call them a box magazine, but just magazine is fine. You want to be uber cool, you can call it a mag. This and this are not the same thing, okay? So when you start calling them a magazine, now I have to take you seriously because you're using the right word. When you call it a clip, I tune you out. And that doesn't make you more or less legitimate, it's just as a practical matter what happens. So, call it a magazine and start the conversation. Call it a clip and expect the conversation to end. So, again, that's part of what I want to talk to you about is basically you need to get educated about firearms. Now, I really recommend that you take a firearms class, even if you hate guns. I did it. I didn't do it for the same reasons I'm advocating you do it, but when I did it, I found out that a lot of my pre-assumptions about guns were wrong. I had stereotypes about guns, I had stereotypes about gun owners, I had stereotypes about shooting, and I found out all of them were wrong because they're stereotypes. And so I recommend that you take a gun class. I recommended this yesterday to a woman, and she just about tore my head off. So I understand that some of you guys are going to react negatively to that suggestion. But if you can muster the courage, they're relatively inexpensive. You'll spend about a half a day, and I can guarantee you, if this is a subject that you're passionate about and you want to argue with us gun enthusiasts about it, and us gun rights advocates, it behooves you to learn about what we do. It behooves you to spend some time with us, figure out what we do, and then that way you can talk to us in our own language, and we can then respond to you as intelligent people. So that's my conversation with my anti-gun friends. Go ahead and leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Check us out on Facebook, and thanks for listening. Take care.